Hello and welcome back to another episode of the podcast Wild, Wise and Whole. Thank you so much for joining in today and listening. So I am bringing you the first guest episode of 2025 and I am so honoured to be bringing you a conversation with somebody that I massively respect, I massively value and I massively look up to as a practitioner and a human being. So today's conversation is with Nisarga. Nisarga is one of the facilitators on the BBTRS, so that is the breathwork, the trauma release breathwork that I am currently in the process of training with. So during my retreat last June, I met Nisarga, I was with him for a week, I was supported by him as a facilitator, and then also when I was in my own experience with the breath. And he is someone also who essentially really understands the human body. He is trained and he trains people in Myofascial Energy Release, which is, bodywork, which I am training with training in, should I say, in October. So I'm going to be getting my training a week long, I think it is, to be, doing bodywork around the pelvis for people. So I'm very excited about that. He has also trained with Gabor Mate, doing compassionate inquiry. So he is just like a all-round beautiful human being with such a big heart, such a beautiful energy, so much knowledge, such an incredible practitioner. And it was a real honour for me to have him on the podcast and to discuss all things like self-compassion, how we can connect back to our hearts, how we connect back to our bodies using the breath to help us just like heal and help us like move through the things that we're experiencing. So I'm very excited to bring you this conversation. So I hope that you do enjoy. Hello, Nisarga. Thank you so much for coming on to the podcast episode. This is a conversation I am really excited to have, and I am very, very excited to have you for my community to listen to, for my audience to listen to, and also like my clients as well, because I talk so much about the modalities that you teach, and I know that we're training together this year, which is also, well, I'm training with you, which is really exciting. So tell me a little bit about who you are and the work that you do with people.
Thank you so much, Lydia, for inviting me to your community, and welcome everybody. Very happy to be a guest today. My name is Nisarga. I was born in Poland, and I am very blessed and happy to facilitate various modalities of biodynamic breathwork, trauma release, myofascial energetic release, and I'm practitioner of compassionate inquiry, as well as biodynamic craniosacral. But in essence, I think I said that I'm blessed about it because it's my passion, it's my joy, it's my soul calling. That I was blessed to find out more than 20 years ago, and shift my career from engineering in a big corporation, working in Northampton in UK, to become maybe a body engineer or emotional engineer or trauma release engineer, if I may say. But I'm blessed to be able, likewise you, Lydia, to work with people, support people, and it gives me so much fulfillment and joy.
Mm. And I know that we're going to talk about the breath and we're going to talk about the myofascia. Um, and for you, like how do you find doing this work? Like working with human beings, working with their bodies, working with the trauma release?
Um, how do I find it?
Yeah.
Well, body, fascia, breath, and trauma release. This is all so intertwined because
Mm.
we are Trinity. We are body, mind, and soul, and our body are not separate from our mind and emotions. So whatever we think, whatever we feel, whatever we say, however we act, it responds our biology and our nervous system. So I found that working with fascia, which is the biggest network of the soft tissue in the body that is connected to also nociception, which is basically connecting to our nerve endings, affects our nervous system. as well as breath work. And so I feel that the common connection here is the body. Everything
Mm.
starts with the body. We, of course, not only the body, but if there's any guru for each one of us in this world, this is our body,
Mm.
because the body is teaching us every day. Our body is giving us a lot of information, a lot of whispers, and if we find a stillness and slow down for a moment, we can really start paying attention to those whispers and acknowledging the body. And the body pays amazing gifts by giving us bliss, health, joy, happiness,
Mm.
and abundance.
Yeah. I mean, I talk a lot about slowing down to hear the body. And I know from my own experience, and I know from working with clients, it's so hard for people to slow down. Like,
Mm.
it's so hard for people to hear the whispers of the body. So, what would your advice be around that? Like, if someone's listening to this now and they think, I don't know how to do that, what would you say to them?
Mm. Start from something. Start from 1 minute a day, and 2 minutes a day, 5 minutes a day. Make yourself reminder to stop for a moment, in the morning, at least 3 times a day. In the morning, before we put our feet out of the bed, just for a moment with closed eyes, make a note evening before about reconnecting to yourself early morning. So when you wake up, you see that note, you put your hand on the heart, and for just even 1 minute, reconnect to your heart, reconnect to yourself. Start paying attention to the inner dialogue when you wake up, because this is so important. What we are thinking, that creates our biochemistry. And then in the afternoon, maybe between 2 and 4, is another window when our mind starts having a specific chemistry, where again, looking into our inner talk, and that space in our heart is very powerful. So find a gap in these 2 hours between 2 and 4. And again, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 1 minute, even if you are in a busy environment or at work, we can find that place where there's a park around, or room where we can for a moment just close our eyes and see what's happening, be with ourselves, scan the body for a moment. And then the third part of the day, very crucial to looking in for this self-inquiry, is evening, just before going to bed, closing eyes, and for a moment recollect our day and see what would I do anything different today? Or was my day, am I grateful, or parts of the day that I choose, to be at my best, to choose the best action, the best feelings, and so I would suggest to those of you who are listening, who have a hard time to start this self-inquiry about interoception and felt sense, awareness of our thoughts, just start slow, but do it consequently every day. Make a note, make it an intention. If we are passionate about something, we find our way. So you need
Mm.
to find a passion that this is important, and it's incredibly important. It can change tremendously the trajectory of our life, trajectory, what we attract, how we feel, because this really impacts how we manifest our environment, because we are creating 60 to 70,000 thoughts every day. Every thought has potential to create our reality. But the interesting thing about our thoughts is that out of these 70,000 thoughts, there's a lot of thoughts that are really repeating. Maybe 90% of the thoughts, maybe 90 thoughts out of the 70,000 are thoughts that have specific meaning that we give into our life. Maybe around our relationship, love, our health, our wealth, some fears on aging, etc., etc. And if we look, there will be repeated times in our day where we are subconsciously creating those thoughts to basically to create reality. And so that stillness and slowing down has tremendous impact on many layers on our life, not just to calm our nervous system, but really be aware, bring the witness what we are thinking of, what we are feeling, what we are, um, what we are creating, what we vibrate of. And that's tremendously important because then we can master our life. And so, with like everything, we need to start easy and keep repeating, like in the gym. If we have this strong resolution, or 2025 is the year where I, become fit, I lose some weight, I drop some habits that doesn't serve me. That doesn't, that it's not going to happen within a week. This has to be consistent effort in the beginning for 21 days at least, because in 21-day cycle, our bodies start making from the habit to self-realization. And then after this, it becomes like a lifestyle. You don't have to anymore think about it. Those pauses in the day will habitually become a part of your life. But this first 7, 14, 21 days, we need to make a little bit of effort and consistency so our body can learn.
Yeah, I love that. And I say this to clients a lot is I think there's I think there's a concept in the healing space that hard and fast is what it should be. And I personally found this year with somatics and with my nervous system, slowly, and the compound effect. So I'd be doing these habits and doing these changes, and then one day a scenario would present itself and I didn't respond the same way, or I wasn't waking up dysregulated. And I always say this to clients, it's like you have to build a relationship almost with your body and with yourself. Um, and one of the things I'm curious about is your perspective on how trauma impacts all of this. Thinking about the theme of being whole, how does trauma like pull someone away from their wholeness and impact that?
Wholeness. Yes, we are born as a whole, as a child. We are loving, a blissful being. And something happens usually throughout. If we talk about developmental trauma, something happens between time of conception and 7, 8 years old that is traumatic for the child. And it could be we are born with different sensitivity, and for each one of us, different factors will impact what means to be a traumatic event. But basically, it's something that is too fast, too intense for coping mechanism of our nervous system. When that happens, there is the compassionate mechanism of our nervous system of low tone of dorsal complex where we freeze, where we shut down. And that is created so we don't feel pain, we don't feel strong emotions, because they could be too much to handle for a small infant or for the child. So the nature gave us opportunity to kind of disconnect, disassociate in the childhood time, and then we grow up with this freeze in our bodies. Like Vessel van der Kolk said, the body keeps the score. Means that those experiences live in the body, lives in the soft tissue, creating tension or stress, and we keep our emotions in those parts of our body, and we kind of learn that we are fragmented, we are alone with our story, we are not our story is not acknowledged, that nobody can understand us. And then in society even more nowadays, we see that somehow that separation between even individuals becomes stronger and stronger. We keep isolating ourselves from others. We escape into social media. We start creating more and more distance, and that means that we are less whole as individual but also as a community, because expression of individual is also expression of the whole communities. And so trauma create that fragmentation in our body and disconnection. So we feel less, we feel parts of our body completely numb, disconnected, frozen, and that's what trauma does. But we need to understand that we are not anymore this 7-year-old self that has been abandoned by a father, or been exposed to some other traumatic event, maybe violence, maybe sexual abuse, or any other circumstances that can be very, very traumatic for the child. And that's the first step, that we can shift into the functional adult, into the witness from IFS, internal family system. There are three parts of our psychic: the wounded child, the functional adult, and the second one, I forgot what it was. It was wounded child, adaptive child, which is the defense mechanism, is the second part, that we learn how to cope with the stress as a way of adaptation, defense mechanism. And then the third one is functional adult, when we can start understanding, okay, some pattern of survival just kicked in because something happened externally. Maybe somebody raised the voice next to me in the coffee shop, and I translated like somebody's shouting, and the violence is expected, and my body goes into shutdown and fear. So until I don't go into that functional adult to start understanding reality as it is, it's very hard to bring that wholeness in from the separation. And that wholeness happens when we also can bring self compassion of our heart, when we start observing that inner dialogue and inner judge just constantly beat ourselves up. I'm not good enough. I should, I would, all these inner voices that are really created for us to disconnect and separate ourselves again. And so from the functional adult, that's the first step, where we can watch those inner dialogue, bring awareness to it, and then there's various ways to heal through trauma work, through breath work, through body work, and other different modalities, to bring that wholeness of basically, I feel that the wholeness, to me, the wholeness means self-love to myself, and self-compassion to my body, to my responses, reactions. We all humans, we all make mistake. We sometimes go back into our reactions, and then we might not be proud of it. And we can always come back and apologize and be self-compassionate that, okay, it happened again. How I can bring more awareness, and next time, don't do it. So that's the wholeness for me, the compassion of the heart.
Yeah, I resonate with that. And I think there's like what I'm hearing you say is like the wholeness of the uncomfortable parts too. and like being able to integrate those parts into self that maybe are really uncomfortable or are really wounded, and just being able to like meet them with compassion, which is what you've said, which is something that has been like so profound for me the last year. And I think one of the biggest things I've got from starting the breathwork training is, and doing the modality of BBTRS, is just being able to integrate the whole self and realizing that I don't just have to be this perfectly healed, not that that's a thing, but you know, like perfectly healed person, practitioner, therapist with all of my shit together all of the time. And I'm like, no, actually, like I can make mistakes and I can do all the things and it's okay, and just coming back to the heart. And I think that's so I think that's so profound, and I think sometimes that's missing in certain spaces. Um and I'd love to know how you think the breath lends itself to that. I mean, personally, I know it's unbelievably profound, and
Mhm.
especially the modality that you teach, BBTRS, is just like the most incredible thing I've ever experienced. But like, how do you think it links into finding our wholeness?
I liked what you said about these parts and accepting the parts and
Mm,
become whole, because wholeness is bringing our light and shadow. We
mm,
both have both, and then if we only live in the light and we neglect our shadow because we're ashamed or afraid, then it's only one part of the coin. And people who live in their shadow, not understanding that they're also light. There's also light in their
mm,
being. That's also half of it, of that wholeness. So embracing those sides and bring awareness where those parts can be harmful, and just bring more awareness to that reactions. But you coming back to your question, how breath work comes into bringing the wholeness, is that, as I mentioned, in trauma we are separating. There's certain disconnect that happens, that we are disengaging from life in some way,
mm,
disengaging from our force, from our potential, from our worthiness, from our self-love. And breath work is fantastic because breath work trespasses somehow the cognitive mind
mm.
and goes straight into our heart, goes straight into our body. So very often, I'm noticing people who might be so much on guard and protections and and defense mechanisms, being very cognitively up into here, into the head, into the mind, which is important part. We need to use our mind, and I notice going to the breath work, they just very quickly drop into the body, into their feelings, and part of becoming whole is to feel, because feeling is healing.
Oh, I love
and
that.
uh, and that part of wholeness means that those separated parts of ourselves need to hear and need to be expressed. We need to give them voice. We need to give them a way that they can really express from that part when they were 5, 7, 2, whatever that age was. And we don't have to completely understand cognitively what has happened, what is the story. The body has its own wisdom. We believe in biodynamic breathwork. The body has its own wisdom. And
Mm,
if images and understanding, cognitive understanding comes, that's wonderful. And if it don't, it's also wonderful.
mm,
It doesn't have to come, because, as I said, body has this wisdom to understand, express, and that's when wholeness comes, when we can really tap into our primary feelings, and going into the trauma vortex, but in the safety. The trauma vortex is that place where our emotions has not been expressed. It could be rage, it could be fear, it could be deep grief. But before we go into this trauma vortex, we have to use certain techniques of breath work and to create a safety in the body. So that expression has to come from the place of connection and safety. So we have a counter vortex, which is safety, presence, and witness, the functional adult, and trauma vortex all at once. And when when we can pass through that tunnel, I would say, or that passage, that's where we can start completing the trauma from the past, and we become whole again. The energy start flowing through the body. We feel more alive, we feel more connected, we feel more, whole. So
Yeah.
that's the crucial part of the breath work, that it creates, that it allows emotional expression.
And I remember going so deeply into that trauma vortex in Poland. And I think just hearing you say then about like the counter vortex of safety, it's like also other people outside of yourself, as you're learning to become that for yourself, can be that for you. Like you were that for me in that experience that I had on the pelvis day. Um, and that response came for me that I did not expect at all. And I completely disassociated in like quite an extreme way. And what I didn't realize at the time, now I reflect back on that, is I think it was like the male presence, because obviously I had my partner, I had Aisha, but I think because my trauma has been experienced through men, there was something so healing for me about that anchor and that safety of having the male presence come over. And yeah, you were able to help me complete that and help me choose anew. And that was like such a profound experience. And I think when people don't have that within themselves, I think it's so beautiful to know that there's practitioners out there and there's modalities out there that can support us to find that for ourselves and can help us move through the trauma vortex to express what needs to be expressed in the body. And that's like, that is wild. I just want everyone to be able to experience that.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing this experience. I would like to say this very beautiful quote that I like from my teacher, Gabor Mate. He's a founder of Compassion and Inquiry, and in his book, Myth of Normal, he quotes this that trauma healing that happens not because absence of danger, but presence of connection. Yeah, I will repeat that. Trauma healing happens not because absence of danger, but because presence of connection and loving presence, basically. And that's what happened to you. There was a masculine presence just purely there to support you in the process, and that create a healing. And it's a very important aspect of the healing journey that we as a practitioners create that space of trust, space of safety and connection. And that's much more important than pushing anybody to do anything and giving the best coaching guidance ever. If that trust, safety, and connection is not established, I feel that we missing an important part of the journey into the healing, into recovery. So, and especially for you when the trauma was related to men, and then being with the masculine presence. Yeah, that's thank you for sharing that.
Thank you for being there in that moment. It was amazing. I'd like to ask you as well about the physical and spiritual disconnection, moving on to the pelvis. And I want to talk a little bit about the body work that you do. I want to talk a little bit about just that space, because for me it's been so important on my journey, but so many clients I work with, um, so very disconnected from the pelvis, hence why I want to come and train this year. And it feels like it's a big theme that completely disconnects. I'm going to say women, but I think human beings as well. But my experience of working with women is like disconnects us, sorry, from our heart, from our wisdom, from our experience, from our life force energy, our sexual energy. And I'd love to know what you'd say on this topic.
Mhm. Mhm. Mm. Yeah, pelvic floor, it's our sexuality, grounding our sensuality. It's a life force. It's a powerful life force, and there's various reasons why we disconnect from that life force. One is simply, a trauma, sexual abuse, and some could be also as simple as that the parents don't know how to address when the child comes into the puberty, into the teenage, and they start exploring their sensuality, maybe a little bit more
Mm,
than before. And for child, this is all love. The child doesn't distinguish yet in the age of 6, 7, 8, when the love and sensuality is different. It's just intimacy. And then when that comes and the parents don't know how to address it, how to talk to the child, how to be more natural about it. This gives signal to the child, my sexuality is not okay. My
mm,
sensuality is not okay. And subconsciously we create a cut in our waist, around our waist. And so everything down is bad. Everything down is I'm ashamed of. And that's also our religion has big impact on it, to
mm.
shame us for our sexuality. And it's in general, we keep a lot of suppressed energy in that area. And so I think the biggest problem here that we start separating heart and sex. So it's
Yeah.
either or. There's I can be in a loving relationship, in beautiful relationship when there's a lot of heartful energy, but the sexuality is somehow not flowing, or other way around, there's a lot of sexuality, chemistry, but can't find my heart in that. And
Mm,
so the journey is how to unify and how to bring those two centers together, how to start maintaining and dropping from the heart down into the pelvis through various practices, from some TRE exercises that can move the energy of the pelvis by doing some body work, because there's a lot of stuck emotions in the soft tissue. And when we start working on our pelvis, on different structures, on rotators, adductors, pelvic floor, even abdominal region, psoas muscles, this is all connected deeply to the pelvic floor. And when we start bringing more flexibility into these structures, we start also kind of unshaming the pelvis. It's about
mm.
kind of layering out those taking out those layers that we put on shame, that we can be touched around our pelvis or legs, and we can observe and allow, and in a space of safety, um, express
Mm.
all the feelings that are there, and then that expression usually move the energy between heart and sex, and then we can find this wholeness again, that
Yeah.
wholeness between heart and sex, which are kind of you know working together. There's no one or the other.
No, they're like in relationship, and I think one of the again from my experience, one of the biggest kind of moments doing the breath work and doing the body work, and again, being held by a male, being held by Matt, and doing body work was that sexual energy being activated, and it just being really normalized and seen as an energy. and the charge completely being taken out of that. And then through being held with that, I'm like, oh, it's just energy. Oh,
Mhm.
yeah. And also, I think, I say to a lot of my clients about sexual energy, and they immediately think it's sex. And I'm like, no, it's creativity, it's presence, it's joy, it's so much of that life force energy that we speak of. Um, and I just think it's really sad how many women, I'm sure men experience this as well, but how many are numb and completely disconnected from that area. Um, and I just think, like, imagine we were all connected to our root, how much more wild, whole, wise we would be in this world,
Mhm.
and how much more like embodied we would be.
Mhm. Yes, yes, definitely. And all this journey can start as simple as being with the nature, because
Mm,
because it's all about also grounding. Our pelvis is not just this region where our sexuality lives. It's also our legs, our feet,
mm,
our knees. That all this is all part of the pelvis, in my view. And if I see somebody with disconnected from the nature, wearing constantly very high sole of the for the feet, constantly we walk on the concrete and we lost that connection. And awakening pelvis could be standing 5-10 minutes in the garden in the morning and soaking this energy and meditating a little bit and letting this energy flow upward into the pelvis and being walking barefoot, taking maybe cold plunge, just being close to the wind, to the sun, to the light, to the trees. This is all part of reconnecting to our sexuality, because somehow I feel that the nature, the power of nature, awaken our senses and awaken our body.
mm,
And part of awakening our sexuality is also feeling that bliss and feeling that energetical flow. So, um, you know, yeah, making love with nature could be amazing experience.
yeah.
Being in the forest and hugging tree and
Mm,
breathing fresh air and just being barefoot.
yeah, it's so nice. I think as well, it's like this energy that we speak of is so regulating for the nervous system. It's like it's not separate. Sexuality, life force, energy, nervous system work, and that's one thing I'm really seeing in my work with clients at the moment is how much these experiences that we speak of have such a regulating effect on the nervous system also, and then bring us back to that wholeness. And I think it's just that the knowing that, trauma healing or any type of healing can also be, as much as it can be breathwork sessions with a practitioner, it can be what you've just said, feet on the ground, taking a deep breath in. Like, that is so nourishing for your body and your nervous system. And these things can create cues of safety in your body and really help people feel connected, which I love. So I'm going to advise everyone to go and make love to a tree, as Nisarga says.
Yeah.
um, can I just ask, because I'm aware that we've used the word bodywork a lot, and
Mhm,
I've just remembered how often I say that to people, and they say to me, "What is that?" So,
mhm.
just for listeners, so they know what we're talking about, what is bodywork when we speak about it?
So, in a simple term, bodywork is it's a working team. We create a working team with the client. So basically, through bodywork, we give the client, we're using touch, like in massage, but we are reconnecting the clients to be a working team with practitioners, so they stay present, they give feedback, what they feel, what they sense, they stay present with their breathing, with their emotional expression. It's not like massage where you lay down, fall asleep, 90 minutes passes and you just go home. Of course, sometimes in bodywork might happen that somebody is completely exhausted and they just go to sleep, but we stay present. We stay present and we working structurally with the body to align, to find a way to align the fascial trains, to align the soft tissue, the ligaments, tendons. So it's a bit more technical than massage itself, less intuitive, and brings more of the engagement for recipient in the session than maybe in traditional massage.
Okay, nice explanation. And also, can you explain what biodynamic is, the breath work? I mean, I spoke about this, but how would you explain for anyone listening if they want to do breath work, if they want to explore biodynamic? How is that different to other breathwork
Mhm,
modalities?
mhm, mhm. So biodynamic from Latin means is the life force or energy running through the body. So we bring the wholeness again in the modality, but in essence we work with elements like deep connected breath, movement, sound, touch, and emotions, meditation. And the core key, it's a trauma-oriented breath modality. So we work a lot with interoception, with felt sense, coming back to the body, slowing down, feeling, sensing. We bring concepts of pendulation, titration. So basically, we want to keep the recipient in a very safe space where they can really feel, trust their body, express, and complete anything that hasn't been expressed back then, whenever it was.
Yeah, I think the biggest difference for me I found is even though it's like deep connected breath, they when you breathe, you want to stay really present, so you're not aiming to like go into that cathartic release and kind of leave your body.
Mm,
And I think that's why it's so profound. Again, thinking about these qualities of like nervous system, building capacity, building safety, and also I find with the breath work is you become like your own teacher in a way. Like I think it really promotes you tapping into your own wisdom and being able to getting to the point where you're able to hold yourself in what you're experiencing. And I found that with Matt is to start with, he was really an external source for me. And then as time went by with the modality, I became that source of like inner strength. And I just think that was so like profound because I think it's we walk side by side with people. We don't it's not that dynamic of I have
mhm.
all the answers. I'm the savior almost. It's like we're going to walk side by side and we're just going to help you through whatever it is that you're experiencing. Like, I don't know if you see it that way.
Definitely, in biodynamic breathwork, we don't really work in a way of coaching,
Mm,
giving advices, pushing to some expressions. The person who is coming for the session, they guide their own session. They show how much their nervous system is ready
mm,
to release, is ready to contain. Everybody has different container. Everybody has different capacity for their nervous system, and that's why every session is unique because the client is the teacher. The client shows us the way. We cannot have one framework for everybody because we come with different stories, with different background, with different capacities to contain the energy and release and emotions. So and that's why it's so beautiful, because the client shows the way, the client shows what they're ready for, and we just simply holding space for them with compassion and presence, of course, knowing the tools and giving some suggestions. But in general, those are very little we impact the client's journey by our inputs or coaching style. It's not that. It's more allowing. This work is about allowing.
And speaking of self-compassion, if someone's listening to this, because we've spoke about it a lot in this, I speak about self-compassion a lot with my audience and with my clients. How can somebody start to cultivate self-compassion, and why is it so important in this work?
Mm. I think I will come back to the very beginning of this talk again, witnessing this self-talk. Because without understanding how much we we're not compassionate for ourselves, unfortunately, and we start to bring awareness to it. That's the first step. How just to notice the inner critic and self-talk, and that's the first part. Oh my God, I did it again. My thoughts are going again into down spiral. I'm not good enough. I cannot do it. I will never be able to do it. And da 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 da. And that's and then without that we cannot bring self-compassion, because then it's just it's not really real in some ways. And then when we start bringing that awareness of our inner critic, then for me, the self-compassion is about having a conversation to those voices, and having a compassion to understand where they're coming from, acknowledging them, accepting them, and sometimes telling "fuck off," get off my head, stop it now. I'm not this voice,
Yeah.
and kick that voice out. And sometimes it works, sometimes not. But finding our own way, what works with this conversation with our inner critic. And if it happens again, don't be too harsh on yourself, because this is a process that will take time, and those voices will be coming back. And essentially working with this inner mantra, I am worthy. I am worthy. I am good enough. Because essentially, if we look down to all the stuff that comes from our inner critic, the main point that we come to is I'm not good enough. All the fears, all the worries that we can't, it all comes down to I'm not good enough. And how we can have that clarity and work with mantra. And yeah, I'm good enough. I'm worthy. I'm okay. And then keep reminding yourself, because we forget, and we have to keep coming back to that
Yeah.
self-realization. And then slowly biochemistry and neuroceptions in our brain will start creating new connections, because every time we do that, there is new connection being created. And then we start changing neuroplasticity. So eventually, coming from space I'm not good enough, we can start living I'm worthy, and then the magic starts happening around our lives, because we start attracting, because we're living the worthiness. We're not only speaking about it and feeling it, but we're living the sensations, and we're living the feeling of being good enough. And then the universe, we tap into that vortex that manifests the reality, because we're not anymore chasing it, but we're living it. And that rewiring takes a moment of awareness and witnessing.
There's a phrase I often use that I love, and I tell people to take affectionate awareness of what they're noticing rather than judgmental awareness. Because I think, especially I found in somatics, when I invite clients to notice what's happening, instantly there's like a level of judgment of, oh, I don't feel this, or I'm not noticing this, or I'm not doing it right, or that inner critic talk that you spoke about. So I always say to people, how can you take it the lens of affectionate awareness? And I think just even
Mm,
changing that language and just intentionally noticing where you are being judgmental and self-critical, and then being
mm,
affectionate. And one of my mentors uses the analogy of like a baby bird or a kitten. And she's like, imagine you find this little kitten or this baby bird, and you're being so loving towards it. And
mm,
she's like, that energy is affection, and you want to have that with yourself. And
mm,
I love that. And I think it's so simple, and it's such a lovely visualization, because a lot of us would see a kitten or a baby
mm,
bird and be like, oh.
mm. Yeah,
So I
yeah,
think it's just like sometimes these really simple techniques, if you practice them, like is a theme of what you're saying, if you keep practicing them, they're going to create such like profound change. And I think that's so
yeah,
beautiful.
yeah. Another part that I like is looking into it like as if you look for the best friend
Yeah.
or a lover or somebody you truly love, or your child. Would you say to your child, "You're not good enough"? Never. We would never say. Why do we say it to ourselves? So bring that awareness that as if that was your most precious friend, that even if you see their shadow, you would still find a way to compassionately communicate that about that, not saying, "Oh, you are so stupid,"
Yeah.
which we say sometimes to ourselves. So I like that comparison to the best friend.
Yeah, I like that. And I think bringing the inner child in as well is something that massively helps, which you've spoke to. But I think even just like people imagining that what they're saying, or like if they are triggered or there's something that comes up, it's like, imagine that's your 5-year-old self. Instantly that's going to shift so much, like you said, because you wouldn't
Mm,
be critical towards your inner child. And I think inner child work also gives people, like when we've been talking about parts work, like, God, that's such a driver for self-compassion. It's amazing how quick it can shift things. So yeah, I think it's magical. I think it's lovely. And lastly, I just want to ask you, we spoke about the quality of wholeness quite a lot. What does it mean for you to be wise and wild?
mm. Um, I think wisdom for me is there's in Hawaii they have this saying, uh, Pono, it's called Pono. Effectiveness is the measure of truth, and that for me is wisdom. And what it says is there's no one arbitrary true. We all find our own true depending on
Mm,
our backgrounds and our story, and we cannot just say this is the way. This is the way for me. Doesn't have to be the way for you or somebody else. And we
mm,
all have to figure it out what is that way. And it gives me somehow acceptance to others as they are. And that's for me wisdom, where we can find place for everybody on this world to live their happiness and drop our judgments and criticism or of their actions or their behaviors, because we don't know who they are, we don't know their stories.
mm,
And so for me, that's the wisdom, to giving everybody a possibility to live their truth, and live my truth with integration of presence and love.
mm.
So that's for me why wisdom and wildness. My God, listening to the inner child, keep coming back, because keep forgetting how playful he is, how loving he is, and sometimes the Saturn in my 12th house comes in onto my moon, and just this grumpy energy takes it over, and just complains. And so the wildness for me is just reconnecting to the inner child, play, and just follow that intention of uh, jumping and playing, and just following that blissful energy that we all have somewhere down deep, uh, and getting it out and having fun with it. Don't bother about others' opinion because it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I love that. And that's one of the things I loved about Poland was just everyone in the room dancing. And I especially loved seeing the men dance, to just see the energy of the inner child in the men in
Yeah.
the room was so, oh, it made my heart smile so much. It was beautiful. So yeah, I love that. Thank you so much. Where can people find you and how could they work with you?
Thank you. Thank you for asking this. I think the best way is visiting my Instagram, Nisarga8, or my website, nisarga8.com, and that you can see my calendar, you can see all the stuff I do online and in person. And there's a lot of article on my website where you can use. There's some online courses also of the self-body work or breath work. So you can take that courses, and that's the easiest.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to have you, and I've loved this
Thank you.
conversation.
Thank you, Lydia, so much.
How do I start?